Blood trickles down Emma's face, designer clothes ripped as she hides her panic from the rancher approaching with his twin daughters. "Stay back, girls," he commands, unaware that Emma's wrecked SUV hides more than a dented fender. Safe here? Impossible. He watched his 6-year-old twin daughters chase each other through the golden wheat field. Lily's pigtails bounced as she ran while Rose lagged behind, stopping to examine every interesting rock and flower along the way. "Daddy, look what I found," Rose called out, holding up a smooth riverstone. Jack smiled, his weathered hands adjusting his baseball cap. At 34, he'd been raising the girls alone since their mother, Sarah, walked out 7 years ago when they were barely born. The Morrison Ranch in Montana had been his sanctuary, a place where he could give his daughters the childhood he dreamed of. But as they approached the old wooden fence that bordered Highway 89, Jack's smile vanished. A woman sat slumped against the fence post, her designer clothes torn and dirty. Blood trickled from a cut above her left eyebrow, and her long auburn hair was matted with dust. Her expensive SUV sat in the ditch 20 yards away, steam rising from its crumpled hood. "Stay back, girls," Jack commanded, his voice sharp with concern. The woman looked up as he approached, and Jack felt his breath catch. Despite the injuries and dirt, she was strikingly beautiful with emerald eyes that held a mixture of pain and something else he couldn't identify. Fear, maybe, or desperation. "Ma'am, are you hurt? I'm Jack Morrison. This is my land." She tried to stand but winced, clutching her left arm. I'm Emma. Emma Sterling, my car." She gestured weakly toward the wreckage. Jack's eyes widened. Everyone in Montana knew the Sterling name. Oil money, real estate empire, the kind of wealth that made headlines. But right now, Emma Sterling looked like any other person in need of help. "We need to get you to a hospital," Jack said, already reaching for his phone. "No." Emma's voice was sharp, almost panicked. "Please, no hospitals, no police. I need somewhere safe to think." The terror in her eyes made Jack hesitate. Lily and Rose had crept closer, their curiosity overcoming their father's warning. "Is the pretty lady hurt?" "Daddy," Lily whispered. Emma's expression softened as she looked at the twins. "Hello, beautiful girls. What are your names?" "I'm Lily, and that's Rose. We're 6, Lily announced proudly. "Daddy, can we help her?" Rose asked, her tender heart already engaged. Jack studied Emma's face, noting the genuine warmth that appeared when she looked at his daughters. Something in her eyes reminded him of a wounded animal. Dangerous if cornered, but desperate for kindness. "The farmhouse is just over that hill," he found himself saying. "You can clean up, and we'll figure out what to do next." As he helped Emma to her feet, Jack Morrison had no idea he just made the decision that would transform all their lives forever. The Morrison farmhouse stood like a beacon against the Montana sky, its white clapboard siding and red brick chimney telling stories of 4 generations of honest living. Jack helped Emma up the front porch steps while Lily and Rose raced ahead to open the screen door. "Careful on that bottom step." "It's been loose for 3 years," Jack warned, steadying Emma as she stumbled slightly. Inside, the house breathed warmth and lived in comfort. Family photos lined the mantel above a stone fireplace, and children's drawings covered the refrigerator. Emma's eyes swept the room, taking in the hand-sewn curtains and the worn but clean furniture. "Sit here," Jack guided her to the kitchen table. "Let me get the first aid kit." While Jack rummaged through cabinets, Emma studied the photographs scattered across the table. One showed Jack and the twins at a county fair, all 3 grinning widely. Another captured the girls building a snowman, their cheeks rosy with cold and joy. "Where's their mother?" Emma asked quietly when Jack returned with medical supplies. Jack's jaw tightened. Sarah left when the girls were babies. Said ranch life wasn't what she signed up for. He began cleaning the cut on Emma's forehead with gentle efficiency. "Haven't heard from her since. That must have been incredibly difficult." "We managed just fine," Jack replied. But Emma heard the old pain in his voice. Rose appeared at Emma's elbow, clutching a well-loved teddy bear. "This is Mr. Buttons. He makes everything better when you're hurt." Emma accepted the bear with tears threatening. "Thank you, sweetie. He's perfect." "Can you stay for dinner?" Lily asked hopefully. "Daddy makes the best grilled cheese in Montana." Jack caught Emma's eye. You're welcome to stay until you feel ready to handle whatever you need to handle. For the first time since the accident, Emma felt safe. But safety was a luxury she couldn't afford. Not with everything that had happened in Chicago. Not with the decisions she'd made that led her to run. I should probably call someone, she said, reaching for her purse before remembering it was still in the wreckage. Your phone was smashed, Jack observed. Who do you need to reach? Family. Emma's laugh was bitter. Family isn't exactly an option right now. The twins exchanged glances with the intuitive communication only twins possessed. Rose climbed onto the chair next to Emma while Lily leaned against her father's side. When I'm scared, Daddy tells me stories, Rose offered. Would you like to hear about the magic horses that live in our barn? Emma smiled genuinely for the first time in days. I'd love that. As Rose launched into an elaborate tale involving flying horses and hidden treasures, Emma felt something she hadn't experienced in years. Peace. But even as she listened to the child's sweet voice, her mind raced with the complications of her situation. Someone would be looking for her soon. The people she'd trusted, the empire she'd built, the enemies she'd made, they would all want answers. And when they found her here in this perfect little world that Jack Morrison had created for his daughters, she would destroy it all. The weight of that knowledge settled on her shoulders like a lead blanket, even as Lily began adding dramatic sound effects to her sister's story. Dawn broke over the Montana plains with the kind of spectacular beauty that made Jack grateful every morning for the choice to stay on his family's land. He'd been up since 5, as always, checking the horses and planning the day's work. But this morning felt different, charged with an energy he couldn't name. Emma was still asleep in the guest room upstairs, the first real sleep she'd gotten, judging by the dark circles under her eyes yesterday. The twins had insisted she stay until she felt all better, and Jack found himself hoping that would take a while. Daddy, is Miss Emma going to live with us now? Rose asked over breakfast syrup dripping from her waffle onto her pajamas. She's just visiting, sweetheart. She has her own life to get back to. But what if she likes it here better, Lily added with 6-year-old logic. Maybe she could be our new mommy. Jack nearly choked on his coffee. Girls, that's not how it works. Miss Emma is a very important businesswoman with responsibilities. What kind of business? Rose wanted to know. Before Jack could answer, Emma appeared in the doorway, wearing one of his flannel shirts over her torn clothes. Her hair was pulled back in a simple ponytail, and without makeup she looked younger, more vulnerable. Good morning, she said softly. I hope you don't mind. I borrowed this. Of course not. Jack felt his heart skip as he took in how natural she looked in his kitchen. There's coffee and I can make you some breakfast. Coffee sounds perfect. Emma accepted the mug, Jack offered, inhaling the rich aroma. I can't remember the last time I woke up without an alarm clock. What do you do for work? Lily asked with typical directness. Emma hesitated, choosing her words carefully. I run a company that helps people with their money like a bank. Rose questioned something like that. Jack studied Emma's face, noting the way she avoided details. In his experience, people who were vague about their work were either lying or in trouble. Given what he knew about the sterling fortune, he suspected it was the latter. The phone company is supposed to fix our landline today, he said casually. You'll be able to make any calls you need. A shadow crossed Emma's features. Actually, I was hoping to stay off the grid for a few more days. Would that be possible? Are you in some kind of trouble? Emma sat down her coffee cup, her hands trembling slightly. It's complicated. Most things worth doing are. The simple wisdom in Jack's response surprised Emma. In her world of corporate boardrooms and power plays, nothing was ever stated so plainly. There are people who are very angry with me right now, she admitted. I made some decisions that, well, they didn't like the consequences. Good decisions or bad decisions? Jack asked quietly. The right decisions. But that doesn't always matter to some people. Lily and Rose listened with the grave attention children reserve for adult conversations they sense are important, but don't fully understand. Will the angry people hurt you? Rose asked, her tender heart already attached to their unexpected guest. Emma knelt to Rose's level, her voice gentle but honest. I hope not, sweetie, but sometimes grown-ups have to be very careful about who they trust. You can trust Daddy, Lily declared with absolute certainty. He saved a baby bird once, and he always keeps his promises. Over the twins' heads, Emma met Jack's steady gaze. In his eyes, she saw something she'd forgotten existed. Uncomplicated honesty. The kind of integrity that couldn't be bought or manipulated. "I believe that," Emma said softly. But as the morning sun climbed higher, painting the kitchen in golden light, Emma knew her time in this sanctuary was running out. The real world had a way of finding people, no matter how far they ran. By afternoon, the peaceful rhythm of ranch life had begun to work its magic on Emma's frayed nerves. She sat on the front porch, watching Jack repair a section of fence while the twins helped by sorting nails and offering enthusiastic commentary. "Higher, Daddy. The horses might jump over if it's too low," Lily called out. "Horses don't jump that high, silly," Rose corrected. "Only magic horses can do that." Emma smiled, remembering when life had been simple enough for magic to seem possible. Her phone, the backup one hidden in her jacket pocket, had been buzzing intermittently all morning, but she'd resisted the urge to check it. "You're good with them," Jack observed, taking a water break and sitting beside her on the porch swing. "They're special girls. You've done an amazing job raising them alone. Some days I wonder if they're missing out, not having a mother figure." Emma watched as Rose tenderly bandaged a scrape on her doll's arm, while Lily constructed an elaborate fort for her toy horses. They're learning kindness, imagination, and independence. Those are gifts not every child receives. What about you? Do you have children? The question hit Emma like a physical blow. She was quiet for so long that Jack began to apologize for prying, but she held up a hand. "I was engaged once 3 years ago. We were planning." She swallowed hard. "We were planning everything. The wedding, children, a house in the suburbs. I thought I had my whole life figured out. What happened? I discovered that my fiancé, David, had been systematically embezzling from my company. Millions of dollars over 2 years. When I confronted him, he tried to turn it around, made it seem like I was the problem for not trusting him." Jack's face darkened. "That's when you made the decisions that have people angry." Emma nodded. "I could have handled it quietly, covered it up to avoid scandal. Instead, I turned over everything to the FBI. David's now serving 15 years in federal prison, but his family, they're powerful people. They've made it their mission to destroy me ever since. And that's who you're running from?" "Partly," Emma's voice dropped to a whisper. "But there's more. Last week I discovered that David wasn't working alone. Some of my most trusted employees, people I considered family, were involved. When I started investigating, I found evidence of something much bigger. A conspiracy to take over my entire company. The weight of her confession hung in the air between them." Jack reached over and covered her hand with his own, the simple gesture more comforting than any words could have been. "That's why you can't go to the police. I don't know who to trust anymore. The corruption goes too high, touches too many people with influence." Emma's voice cracked. "I've been running for 3 days trying to figure out how to expose the truth without getting myself killed in the process." Lily appeared at Emma's side, having approached with the silent stealth that children master when they sense adult distress. "Are you crying because you're hurt?" she asked with concern. Emma pulled the little girl into her lap, grateful for the innocent comfort. Sometimes grown-ups cry when their hearts hurt, not just their bodies. "Daddy says, when your heart hurts, you need extra hugs and chocolate chips. That sounds like very wise advice." Rose joined the group hug, and for a moment, Emma felt surrounded by the kind of uncomplicated love she'd forgotten existed. But even as she held these precious children, her mind was calculating how much danger she was bringing to their doorstep. As if reading her thoughts, Jack spoke quietly. "Whatever you're facing, you don't have to face it alone anymore." Emma closed her eyes, allowing herself one moment to imagine what it would be like to truly belong somewhere, to be part of something real and lasting. But reality had a way of intruding on dreams, and hers was about to catch up with her faster than she imagined. The evening meal at the Morrison table felt like something from a different era. Simple food shared with genuine conversation, laughter punctuating stories, and the warm glow of kerosene lamps when the power flickered during a sudden thunderstorm. "I love storms," Rose announced, watching lightning illuminate the kitchen windows. "They make everything feel cozy inside." Emma helped clear dishes, marveling at how natural domestic rhythms could feel when shared with people who actually cared about each other. In her penthouse apartment in Chicago, knew she'd eaten most meals alone, often while working late into the night. I should check on the horses, Jack said, pulling on his rain jacket. Sometimes thunder gets spooked by the lightning. Can we come? Lily asked hopefully. Not in this weather, sweetheart. You and Rose can help Miss Emma pick out a movie. After Jack left, Emma settled on the couch between the twins. Each girl snuggled against her side as they debated movie choices. The domestic scene felt so perfect that Emma almost forgot about the phone burning a hole in her pocket. This one, Rose declared, holding up a DVD of a classic Disney film. As the opening credits rolled, Emma's phone buzzed again. This time she couldn't ignore it. The text message was from Marcus Chen, her head of security, one of the few people she still trusted completely. Emma, they found your car. FBI is asking questions. Your assistant received a call this morning from someone claiming to be your cousin, asking about your whereabouts. You don't have a cousin. Get somewhere safe and call me. Emma's blood ran cold. If they'd found her car, they'd start canvassing the area. How long before someone remembered seeing a blonde woman at the Morrison Ranch? Miss Emma, you're missing the best part, Lily complained, noticing Emma's distraction. Sorry, sweetheart. Emma forced herself to focus on the screen, but her mind was racing. She needed to leave tonight before dawn. Every moment she stayed put, Jack and the girls in greater danger. But as she looked down at these two innocent faces, trusting and content in her presence, the thought of walking away felt like tearing out a piece of her heart. When Jack returned from the barn an hour later, soaked but satisfied that his animals were secure, he found Emma helping the twins with their bedtime routine. Brush your teeth extra good, Emma was saying. I want to see those pearly whites shine. Will you read us a story? Rose asked hopefully. If your daddy says it's okay. Jack nodded, touched by how easily Emma had slipped into their evening ritual. He listened from the hallway as she read Good Night Moon in a soft voice, adding her own gentle commentary that made the girls giggle. After tucking the twins into bed, Emma found Jack in the kitchen, nursing a cup of coffee and watching the storm through the window. They adore you already, he said without turning around. They're easy to love. Emma joined him at the window, standing close enough to feel the warmth radiating from his body. Jack, I need to tell you something. He turned to face her, and the expression in his eyes made her heart skip. What is it? They found my car. It's only a matter of time before they trace me here. Jack's jaw set in a determined line. Then we'll deal with it. You don't understand. These people, they'll destroy everything they touch to get to me. I won't let that happen to you and the girls, and I won't let you face this alone. The intensity in his voice surprised them both. They stood in the lamplight, the storm raging outside, and Emma realized that somewhere in the span of 2 days, this kind, steady man had become someone she couldn't bear to lose. I have to leave tonight, she whispered. No. Jack's response was immediate and firm. We'll find another way. But even as he spoke the words, Emma was already planning her escape. She would wait until he was asleep, leave a note explaining everything, and disappear into the storm before dawn. What she didn't know was that Jack Morrison was a light sleeper, and that he'd already decided she wasn't leaving his protection until this was over. The stage was set for a confrontation that would change everything. At 3 in the morning, Emma crept down the farmhouse stairs, her shoes in her hand, and her heart breaking with every silent step. She left a note on her pillow, explaining everything, thanking Jack for his kindness, apologizing for the danger she'd brought, and promising to remember these 2 perfect days for the rest of her life. The storm had passed, leaving the night crisp and clear. Emma had called Marcus from the guest room, arranging to meet him at a truck stop 20 miles from away. From there, they'd disappear until she could figure out how to expose the conspiracy without getting everyone she cared about killed. She was halfway across the front yard when the porch light flicked on. Going somewhere? Jack's voice was quiet but carried clearly in the still air. He stood on the porch in jeans and a flannel shirt, his expression unreadable. Emma froze, caught between running and turning back. You were supposed to be asleep. Hard to sleep when you know someone you care about is planning to do something dangerous and stupid. It's not stupid. It's necessary. Emma faced him, her voice stronger than she felt. "They'll come here, Jack. They'll tear apart your life looking for me. Let them come." The simple statement delivered with absolute conviction stopped Emma's protest cold. "You don't know what you're saying. These people have unlimited resources, no conscience, and they've already killed to protect their secrets." Jack walked down the steps until he stood directly in front of her. "Emma, do you trust me?" The question hung between them in the moonlight. Behind his steady gaze, Emma saw something that made her breath catch. Not just determination, but something deeper, more personal. "I trust you," she whispered, "but this isn't about trust. It's about keeping you and the girls safe. Then trust me to do that." Jack's hands found her shoulders, his touch gentle but firm. "Trust me to help you fight this the right way." "There is no right way. I've been running for days trying to find a solution that doesn't exist." "Maybe that's because you've been running alone." Emma's resolve wavered as she looked into his eyes. In the distance, a truck engine rumbled. "Marcus, right on time for their rendezvous." "That's my ride," she said, stepping back from Jack's touch. "I know, I called him." Emma's eyes widened in shock. "What?" "Marcus Chen, former Navy SEAL, head of Sterling Industry Security for 6 years, completely loyal to you and nobody else. I called him while you were packing." "How did you—" "Your phone was on the kitchen counter when you went upstairs. I took the liberty of going through your contacts." Jack's expression was unapologetic. "Marcus is coming here not to take you away, but to help us plan our next move." Emma stared at him, emotions wearing across her face. Anger at his presumption, relief that she wouldn't have to leave, and something else that scared her more than any corporate conspiracy. "You had no right. I had every right." Jack's voice was calm but absolute. "The moment you walked into our lives, the moment my daughters started caring about you, I became invested in keeping you safe." The truck pulled into the driveway, headlights sweeping across them. Marcus climbed out, a compact, efficient-looking man with intelligent eyes that took in everything immediately. "M. Sterling," he said with obvious relief. "Are you injured?" "I'm fine, Marcus. This is Jack Morrison." The two men sized each other up with the instinctive weariness of alpha males protecting the same territory. After a moment, Marcus extended his hand. "Thank you for keeping her safe. It's what we do for family around here," Jack replied, accepting the handshake. Emma felt tears threaten at his choice of words. "Family? When was the last time she'd had one of those?" "We have a problem," Marcus continued. "They've escalated. There was an attempt to break into your Chicago apartment tonight, and your assistant's car was vandalized. They're getting desperate, which means they'll make mistakes," Jack observed. "Emma, you said you have evidence of the conspiracy. Everything's in a safety deposit box in Denver. Financial records, recorded conversations, documented proof of the embezzlement ring." "Then that's where we're going," Jack said decisively. We, Emma and Marcus, spoke in unison. "I'm not letting you out of my sight until this is over." Jack's tone backed no argument. "My brother can watch the ranch and the girls for a few days." As the three of them stood in the pre-dawn light, Emma realized that her carefully planned solo escape had just become something entirely different. A mission with allies, a fight with backup, and for the first time in years, hope that she might actually win. But what she didn't know was that back in Chicago, powerful people were already planning their next move. And they decided that if they couldn't destroy Emma Sterling quietly, they'd do it very publicly. Indeed, the real battle was about to begin. The drive to Denver took 8 hours through winding mountain roads, with Marcus following in his own vehicle as backup. Jack had called his brother Tom at dawn, explaining only that he needed to help a friend with urgent business. Tom, a fellow rancher and the only family Jack had left, agreed to watch the girls without asking questions. "Daddy has to help Miss Emma with something very important," Jack had told the twins over breakfast. "Uncle Tom will take good care of you." "When will you come back?" Rose asked, her lower lip trembling. "Soon, sweetheart, I promise." Now as they crossed into Colorado, Emma stared out the passenger window of Jack's pickup truck. Her stomach knotted with anxiety. The closer they got to Denver, the more real her situation became. "Tell me about the safety deposit box," Jack said, breaking the comfortable silence they'd maintained for the last hour. "First National Bank, downtown Denver. I rented it under my grandmother's maiden name, Catherine Walsh." The only people who knew about it were me and my lawyer, Patricia Hoffman. And you trust this lawyer? Emma's hesitation was telling. I used to. Patricia's been the family attorney for 15 years, but lately, she shook her head. I've learned not to trust anyone completely. Jack glanced at her profile, noting the weariness that seemed to have settled into her bones. Except us. Except you. The admission came out softer than Emma intended. They reached Denver as afternoon shadows lengthened across the city skyline. Marcus had arranged for them to stay at a small boutique hotel under assumed names, paying cash for everything to avoid electronic trails. We'll get the evidence first thing tomorrow morning, Marcus explained as they checked in. Bank opens at 9, right. But as they gathered in Emma's hotel room to plan their next moves, Marcus's expression grew increasingly grim as he scrolled through messages on his encrypted phone. What is it? Emma demanded. 3 more Sterling Industries executives were arrested this morning on embezzlement charges. The FBI is calling it the largest corporate fraud case in Montana history. Emma's face went white. But that's impossible. Those executives weren't involved. I would have known. Unless someone's planting evidence, Jack said grimly. Or unless someone's using this investigation to cover their tracks by implicating innocent people, Marcus added. Emma sank onto the hotel bed, the weight of realization crushing down on her. They're not just trying to destroy me. They're systematically dismantling my entire company using my own evidence against innocent people. Who has access to your evidence? Jack asked. Only Patricia knew about the safety deposit box. And the FBI has copies of everything I turned over 3 months ago about David's embezzlement. Marcus and Jack exchanged a meaningful look. Emma, Marcus said carefully, when did you last speak to Patricia Hoffman? 2 weeks ago. She called to update me on some legal matters. Emma's voice grew smaller as the implications became clear. She knew I was planning to investigate the other executives. She knew I suspected the conspiracy went deeper than David. And she's had 3 months to study your evidence, learn your methods, understand exactly how you built your case against David, Jack concluded. The betrayal hit Emma like a physical blow. Patricia had been more than her lawyer. She'd been a mentor, almost a second mother. To learn that someone so trusted had been working against her felt like losing family all over again. We still need what's in that safety deposit box, Marcus said. It might be the only evidence that can prove these new arrests are fabricated. But if Patricia knows about the box, it could be a trap. Jack moved to the window, studying the street below. Then we make sure we're ready for whatever's waiting. As night fell over Denver, Emma realized that tomorrow would determine not just her future, but the fate of dozens of innocent employees who were now caught in a web of corruption she'd inadvertently helped create. The stakes had just gotten much higher than her personal survival. Emma barely slept, her mind churning with memories of Patricia Hoffman, the countless late nights they'd worked together, the personal advice Patricia had given her after David's betrayal, the way the older woman had held her while she cried over the destruction of her engagement and the violation of her trust. Had it all been calculated manipulation? At dawn, Marcus presented a new plan. I've been thinking about this all night. If the box is compromised, we need insurance. What kind of insurance? Jack asked. The kind that ensures Emma walks out of that bank no matter what's waiting inside. Marcus spread a map of downtown Denver across the hotel table, marking strategic points with a red pen. First National has 3 exits. Jack, you'll position yourself across the street with a clear view of all entrances. I'll go in with Emma. No, Jack's response was immediate. I'm not staying outside while she walks into potential danger. Jack, you're not trained for this kind of operation, but I am trained to protect what matters to me. The quiet intensity in Jack's voice made Emma's heart skip. In the harsh morning light, she could see the determination etched in every line of his face. Marcus is right, she said softly. This isn't your fight. It became my fight the moment you walked into my life. At exactly 9, Emma and Marcus entered First National Bank. The familiar weight of her grandmother's ruby ring, which she wore on a chain around her neck as identification for the box, felt reassuring against her chest. The safety deposit box area was eerily quiet. Too quiet, Marcus noted, his hand instinctively moving closer to the weapon concealed beneath his jacket. Mrs. Walsh, the bank employee said with a professional smile. Right this way. As they descended to the vault level, Emma noticed a man in an expensive suit lingering near the elevators. Someone who didn't quite fit the typical bank customer profile. "Marcus," she whispered. "I see him." The safety deposit box sat exactly where Emma had left it 3 years ago, when she'd first begun documenting David's suspicious financial activities. Inside were hard drives, printed documents, and a series of recordings that would either save her company or provide the final evidence needed to destroy her completely. "Everything's here," Emma said with relief, quickly transferring the contents to a briefcase Marcus had brought. But as they prepared to leave, the elevator doors opened to reveal Patricia Hoffman herself, flanked by 2 FBI agents Emma didn't recognize. "Hello, Emma," Patricia said with a sad smile. "I'm sorry it's come to this, Patricia." Emma's voice was steady despite the betrayal burning in her chest. "How long have you been working for them?" "Longer than you know, but not by choice initially." The admission surprised Emma. "What do you mean?" "David's family approached me 2 years before you discovered his embezzlement. They had leverage over certain mistakes I'd made in my past. They wanted someone inside your organization, someone you trusted completely." "So you helped David steal from me?" "No." Patricia's voice was firm. "I monitored the situation, but I never helped with the actual theft. When you discovered David's crimes, I thought it was over. I thought I was free. But they wanted more. They wanted your complete destruction. And when you started investigating the broader conspiracy, they threatened my daughter's family if I didn't help frame the innocent executives." Emma felt a surge of unexpected sympathy for the woman who'd been like a mother to her. "Patricia, we can protect you. We can." "It's too late for that." Patricia gestured to the FBI agents. "Emma Sterling, you're under arrest for conspiracy to commit fraud, money laundering, and racketeering." As the handcuffs clicked around Emma's wrists, she met Marcus's eyes in the reflection of the vault's metal walls. He gave an almost imperceptible nod, the signal that phase 2 of their plan was about to begin. What the FBI agents didn't know was that Jack Morrison wasn't just watching from across the street. He was about to become the wild card that would change everything. The FBI's confident march toward the bank's exit was interrupted by a commotion near the main entrance. A ranch truck had accidentally clipped a fire hydrant, sending water shooting across the street and creating enough chaos to draw the attention of every law enforcement officer in a 3B block radius. In the confusion, Marcus made his move this way. He whispered to Emma, guiding her toward a service exit that Jack had identified during their morning reconnaissance. The handcuffs were no obstacle for a former Navy SEAL who'd been trained in escape and evasion. Within 30 seconds, Emma was free, and they were moving through the bank's lower levels toward the delivery entrance. The briefcase, Emma gasped as they ran. "Already secured," Marcus replied. Jack created the perfect distraction. They emerged into an alley where Jack waited in his truck. Engine running. Emma had never been so grateful to see anyone in her life. "Go, go, go!" Marcus shouted, diving into the truck bed as Jack gunned the engine. Behind them, shouts erupted from the bank as their escape was discovered. But Jack knew Denver's streets from his younger days working construction, and within minutes they were lost in the maze of downtown traffic. "Where to?" Jack asked, checking the rearview mirror for pursuit. "Safe house," Marcus replied. "I've had one prepared since yesterday." The safe house turned out to be a modest cabin in the mountains west of Denver, stocked with supplies and equipped with the kind of communication equipment that made Emma realize Marcus had been planning for this contingency all along. "You knew Patricia would betray me," she said as they settled around the cabin's kitchen table. "I suspected too many pieces of your puzzle led back to her." Marcus opened the briefcase, revealing the treasure trove of evidence Emma had collected. "But now we have everything we need to expose the real conspiracy, including proof that the recent arrests were fabricated." Better than that, Marcus held up a hard drive labeled insurance policy. "This contains recordings of every conversation you had with Patricia over the past 3 years, including several where she discusses the pressure being applied by David's family." Emma stared at the drive. "I never made those recordings." "I did. Standard security protocol for all Heil meetings in your office. You signed off on the surveillance system, remember? You've been protecting me for longer than I knew. It's what loyalty looks like. Miss Gus Sterling." Jack watched this exchange with growing admiration for Marcus's foresight and dedication. But his attention was drawn to Emma's expression, a mixture of hope and exhaustion that made him want to pull her into his arms and promise that everything would be all right. "What's our next move?" Jack asked. "We take this evidence to the media," Marcus said. "Full exposure, simultaneous release to multiple outlets so they can't suppress it. And then we hope Emma's innocent employees can be exonerated before their lives are completely destroyed." As they planned their media strategy, Emma found herself studying Jack's profile in the lamplight. This man had risked everything to help her: his safety, his freedom, potentially even his daughter's security. "Jack," she said quietly, "when this is over, regardless of how it ends, I want you to know that these past few days have been the most real I've felt in years." "When this is over," Jack replied, meeting her eyes, "we're going to talk about what comes next for us." The certainty in his voice sent warmth through Emma's chest. For the first time since this nightmare began, she allowed herself to believe that there might actually be an us to discuss. But outside the cabin, headlights were slowly making their way up the mountain road, and their moment of peace was about to be shattered in ways none of them could have anticipated. The sound of vehicles crunching up the gravel driveway sent Marcus into immediate action. "Lights out," he commanded, plunging the cabin into darkness. "Everyone away from the windows." Jack pulled Emma behind the heavy oak dining table, while Marcus positioned himself near the front door. Weapon drawn. Through the gap in the curtains, they could see at least 3 SUVs surrounding the cabin. "How did they find us?" Emma whispered. "Doesn't matter now," Marcus replied grimly. "Jack, is there a back exit?" "Through the kitchen, but it leads to open ground. They'll see us immediately." A loudspeaker crackled to life outside. "Emma Sterling, this is Agent Sarah Chen with the FBI. We have the cabin surrounded. Come out with your hands visible." Emma's blood turned to ice. "Chen, Marcus. Isn't that my sister?" Marcus finished, his voice hollow. "Sarah's my sister." The betrayal hit like a sledgehammer. Marcus had been her most trusted ally, and now it seemed his own family was part of the conspiracy against her. "Marcus," Emma said carefully, "how long has your sister been with the FBI?" 8 years. But Emma, I swear to you, I had no idea she was involved in this." Jack studied Marcus's face in the dim light, his rancher's instincts for reading people in high gear. "You're telling the truth, I am, but it explains how they've been staying one step ahead of us." The loudspeaker crackled again. "Emma, we know you're inside. We also know you have evidence that could exonerate the innocent people who've been arrested. Work with us, and we can protect you." "It's a trap," Marcus said immediately. But Emma was thinking, her mind racing through possibilities. What if it's not? What if your sister is the one person in the FBI who's actually clean? You're willing to bet your life on that? Emma looked at Jack, seeing her own thoughts reflected in his eyes. They were out of options, surrounded with nowhere to run. But more importantly, innocent people were sitting in jail cells because of evidence that had been manipulated using her own investigative methods. "I'm going out," she decided. "Like hell you are," Jack said immediately. "Jack, people are suffering because of my choices. If there's even a chance that Agent Chen is legitimate, I have to take it." "Then we all go," Jack said firmly. "Together." Marcus shook his head. If this goes wrong, at least we go down fighting for the right thing," Emma interrupted. They emerged from the cabin with hands raised, Emma carrying the briefcase of evidence. Agent Sarah Chen approached cautiously, and Emma was struck by how much she resembled Marcus. The same intelligent eyes, the same careful movements. "Miss Sterling, are you injured?" "I'm fine. Agent Chen, I need to know. Are you here to arrest me or to hear the truth?" Sarah's expression was grim. "The truth is that half the Denver FBI field office has been compromised. The truth is that I've been conducting my own investigation into the Sterling Industries case, and nothing adds up." "Your own investigation? When my brother went dark 3 days ago, I knew something was seriously wrong. Marcus has never operated outside channels unless there was a damn good reason." Marcus stepped forward. "Sarah, I'm sorry I couldn't tell you. You were protecting your client." "I get it." Sarah turned back to Emma. "But now we need to move fast. The agents who arrested you at the bank weren't real FBI. They were private contractors hired by the same people who've been manipulating this entire investigation. Emma felt the world shift beneath her feet. Then Patricia. Patricia Hoffman was murdered 6 hours ago, made to look like suicide. But I've seen the crime scene. She was killed because she was about to confess everything. The briefcase suddenly felt heavy in Emma's hands. Patricia was dead. The woman who'd been like a mother to her, who'd been forced into betrayal and had died trying to make it right. I have recordings, Emma said, her voice steady despite her grief. Evidence that will prove Patricia was coerced, that the recent arrests were fabricated, that there's a conspiracy reaching into the highest levels of corporate and law enforcement. Then we end this tonight, Sarah said decisively. But first we need to get you somewhere truly safe while I coordinate with the few people I trust completely. As they prepared to leave the mountain cabin, Emma realized that the final battle wasn't just beginning. It was about to expose a corruption that went deeper than she'd ever imagined. And somewhere in Montana, 2 6-year-old girls were waiting for their father to come home. The FBI's Denver field office at midnight looked like a fortress under siege. Agent Sarah Chen had assembled a team of 6 agents she trusted completely, people she'd worked with for years, whose integrity was beyond question. We're going to do this by the book, Sarah announced to the team. Everything recorded, everything documented with multiple witnesses for every piece of evidence. Emma sat at a conference table, the contents of her briefcase spread before them like pieces of a complex puzzle. Jack remained close to her side while Marcus coordinated security for the building. This is Patricia Hoffman's voice, Emma said, playing one of the recordings. Patricia's confession filled the room, how she'd been blackmailed into cooperation, how David's family had threatened her daughter's children, how she'd tried to minimize the damage while gathering evidence to eventually expose the truth. And this, Emma continued, switching to another file, is a conversation between Patricia and someone she calls the partner, a voice I don't recognize, discussing the plan to frame innocent executives using fabricated evidence. Agent Chen leaned forward. Can we enhance the audio? Get voice identification on this partner? Already working on it, one of the tech specialists replied. But Emma, there's something else here. Financial records showing payments to several individuals, including... He paused, his face going pale. What is it? Sarah demanded. Including Deputy Director James Morrison. 5 payments over the past 2 years, each for $50,000. The name hit Jack like a physical blow. Morrison? That's my family name. Sarah's expression was grim. James Morrison is my boss. He's been overseeing the Sterling Industries investigation from the beginning, which explains how they've been staying ahead of every move we've made, Marcus realized. Emma felt the pieces clicking into place with horrifying clarity. He's not just corrupt. He's been orchestrating this entire conspiracy, using FBI resources to destroy my company while protecting the real criminals. And he's been using the Sterling case to eliminate anyone who might expose the broader network. Sarah added, Emma, you weren't just a target. You were the perfect cover story for a massive corruption operation. Jack's phone rang, the sound sharp in the tense room. He glanced at the caller ID and his face went white. It's my brother, Tom. Why would he be calling at this hour? He answered the call with growing dread. Tom, what's wrong? Tom's voice was tight with fear. Jack, where are you? Some federal agents came to the ranch an hour ago. They said they needed to take the girls into protective custody while you're being investigated for harboring a fugitive. What? Tom, tell me you didn't let them. I didn't have a choice, Jack. They had official paperwork, badges, the whole thing. They said the girls would be safer in federal protection until this was resolved. Jack's world collapsed. Where did they take them? They wouldn't say. Jack, what the hell is going on? Emma grabbed Jack's arm, seeing the devastation in his eyes. They took Lily and Rose. Jack nodded, unable to speak. The room erupted in controlled chaos as Sarah barked orders to her team. Trace that protective custody order. It has to be fake. Check all federal facilities within a 100-mile radius and get me Deputy Director Morrison on the phone immediately. Sarah, Marcus said quietly, if Morrison has those girls, this just became a hostage situation. Emma stood up, her decision crystallizing with painful clarity. I'm turning myself in. I'll give Morrison everything he wants in exchange for the girls' safety. No, Jack said fiercely. We find another way. There is no other way. Those children are innocent and they're in danger because of me. Sarah Chen looked at the evidence spread across the table, then at Jack's devastated face, then at Emma's determined expression. As a federal agent, she had protocols to follow. As a sister, she understood loyalty. As a human being, she knew what was right. We have 6 hours until dawn, she said finally. 6 hours to build an airtight case that will not only expose this conspiracy, but ensure those little girls come home safely. And if we can't do it in 6 hours. Sarah's expression was grim but determined. Then we tear down the entire system to save them. Outside, the first hints of dawn were beginning to touch the Colorado sky, and somewhere in the darkness, 2 6-year-old girls were learning that the world could be a much scarier place than they'd ever imagined. As dawn broke over Denver, Sarah Chen's team had worked a miracle of modern investigation. The enhanced audio revealed the partner to be Deputy Director Morrison himself, and financial forensics had traced the conspiracy's money trail through 17 different accounts, implicating not just Morrison, but a network of corrupt officials spanning 3 states. But none of that mattered to Jack, who sat by the window watching the sunrise and thinking about his daughters waking up scared and alone somewhere. We found them, Marcus announced, bursting into the conference room with his phone in hand. Lily and Rose are being held at a private facility outside Colorado Springs, a place that's supposed to be a children's services safe house, but is actually owned by a shell company. How do we know they're safe? Jack demanded. Because Morrison is smarter than we gave him credit for, Sarah said grimly. He knows that harming those children would turn this from a white-collar crime into a federal kidnapping case with massive public attention. They're leverage, nothing more. Emma stood up, her decision made. Then we give him what he wants, me in exchange for the girls. Emma, no, Jack said immediately. Jack, listen to me. Emma knelt beside his chair, taking his hands in hers. 3 days ago, I was ready to spend the rest of my life running and hiding. But you and Lily and Rose showed me what it means to have something worth fighting for. You can't sacrifice yourself. I'm not sacrificing myself. I'm choosing to fight. Emma's voice was steady, filled with a conviction that surprised even her. But I'm going to fight smart, with backup, with evidence, and with people I trust. Sarah moved to the conference table, spreading out building schematics. Here's what we're going to do. The exchange is set for noon at Morrison's private ranch. What he doesn't know is that we've been recording every communication, and we have enough evidence to bring down his entire network. It's still incredibly dangerous, Marcus warned. Everything worth doing is dangerous, Jack said quietly, echoing the words he'd spoken to Emma on his front porch, what felt like a lifetime ago. At 11:30 a.m., a convoy of vehicles wound through the Colorado mountains toward Morrison's ranch. Emma rode with Sarah and Marcus while Jack followed with the backup team. Every nerve in his body focused on the moment he'd see his daughters again. The ranch was isolated and heavily secured, but Sarah's team had surrounded it hours earlier. Morrison waited on the front porch, a distinguished man in his 50s, whose appearance of respectability masked years of corruption. Miss Sterling, he called out as Emma approached. You've caused quite a bit of trouble. Where are the girls? Emma demanded. Safe and sound, playing in the barn with some very nice caretakers. They think this is all a big adventure. Let them go, Morrison. Your fight is with me. Morrison smiled coldly. My fight was never personal, Miss Sterling. It was business. Very profitable business that you threatened with your inconvenient sense of ethics. The game's over, Sarah announced, stepping into view with her weapon drawn. James Morrison, you're under arrest for conspiracy, corruption, kidnapping, and murder. I don't think so, Morrison replied calmly. You see, Agent Chen, you've been investigating without authorization. Any evidence you've gathered is inadmissible. Except for this, Emma said, pulling out a recording device. Every word you've spoken in the last 5 minutes, admitting to the conspiracy and confirming that you're holding innocent children as hostages. Morrison's composure cracked for the first time. You're bluffing. Am I, Marcus? Would you like to tell Deputy Director Morrison about the dozen federal agents currently surrounding his property? All equipped with recording devices and all operating under a federal warrant that was signed by a judge an hour ago. The sound of running feet erupted from the barn, and Jack's heart nearly burst as he saw Lily and Rose racing toward him, their faces bright with relief and joy. "Daddy, Daddy!" they cried in unison, launching themselves into his arms. "Are you hurt? Are you okay?" Jack asked, checking them over with frantic thoroughness. "We're fine," Lily announced. "The nice lady said we were on a secret adventure, and we got to see real horses." "And they had pancakes for breakfast," Rose added. Importantly, as Jack held his daughters, Emma watched with tears streaming down her face. This was what she'd been fighting for. Not justice or vindication, but the preservation of innocent love and trust. Morrison was handcuffed and led away, still protesting his innocence. The investigation would continue for months, unraveling a corruption network that reached into the highest levels of corporate and government power. Patricia Hoffman would be posthumously exonerated, and the innocent Sterling Industries executives would be released and compensated for their wrongful imprisonment. But for Emma, standing in the Colorado sunshine, watching Jack reunite with his daughters, the most important victory was simpler and more profound. "Miss Emma," Rose called out, breaking away from Jack's embrace to run to her. "Did you come to save us?" "Actually," Emma said, kneeling to Rose's level, "I think you saved me." 6 months later, Emma Sterling stood in the kitchen of the Morrison Ranch, flower in her hair and joy in her heart as she helped Lily and Rose bake cookies for their father's birthday. Sterling Industries had been rebuilt with new leadership and ethical standards, but Emma had stepped back from day-to-day operations to focus on what truly mattered. "Are you sure this is what you want?" Jack asked, wrapping his arms around her from behind as they watched the girls argue over cookie decorations. "I've never been more sure of anything in my life," Emma replied, leaning back against his chest. "I spent so many years building an empire, but I never had a home. And now I have everything." That evening, as they sat on the front porch, watching the Montana sunset paint the sky in brilliant oranges and purples, Emma reflected on the journey that had brought her here. She'd lost a company but gained a family. She'd fled from danger but found safety in the most unexpected place. And as Jack took her hand in his, while Lily and Rose chased fireflies in the yard, Emma Sterling finally understood what it meant to be truly rich.